Find my last post. Carly and I are still in perpetuity. I'm sorry it's taking so long to get everything down. Honestly, I wasn't expecting it to take me so long, and finding the time has been more difficult than anticipated. The day after I followed Stephanie out of the dining hall was relatively uneventful. I didn't see her again like I had the previous days. We spent the majority of our time inside the second room where Carly was editing the audio for the videos and writing her commentary. While I was editing our footage we had compiled so far. My keyboard dimly illuminated my face while I typed, piecing together a section of video for the factory that Daniel, or no, what was his name? Donovan. The factory that Donovan told us about when I saw it. There in the back of a pan over from one of the upper levels of the factory courtyard was a clown. I cannot properly tell you what it looked like, but the fact it was there is undeniable. Behind some overgrown branches and an outdoor hallway column was the very thing the reporter had told us about. He walked in a casual, almost nonchalant manner. His circus romper swallowed him whole. And looking at the image too long made me almost feel drained somehow. It was as if it was devoid of feeling, all the colors sucked out with it. Like a black and white image come to life. I felt a chill rush down my spine at the way he seemed to look right into me despite the fact that he bore no face. I called out to Carly with a concerned murmur that she didn't hear before growing louder. Carly. Carly. What? What's your deal? You know I'm recording audio. Can't it wait? No, it can't wait. Come on, you know I wouldn't be interrupting you if it could. You know I wouldn't be interrupting you if it could, she says in a mocking imitation of my voice while leveling me with a hard stare over her shoulder. Maybe last week you yelled across the house for me to stop what I was doing, then pulled up a cat video on your phone. Yeah. That couldn't wait, and this can't either. Her foot taps a few times impatiently. She takes a deep breath and sighs, exasperated with me. Fine, show me. She darts out of her chair and leans on the back of mine, resting her chin on my shoulder. I rewind the section of video and press play. At first she looks almost bored, then I feel the weight of her head come off of my shoulder. It rises gradually with the widening of her eyes. What the fuck is that thing, I think. My mouth gapes open and closed like a fish as I hesitate to answer with any certainty at all. It's that thing that the reporter was talking to us about. I know that we've been seeing a lot of strange stuff recently, Ames, but she's white as a ghost. Pale and clammy, I think she may be sick. It never gets any less weird getting confronted with things like this. We spend the next couple of hours poring over all of the footage, photos, anything that we've taken since we got into town. Scouring it for any trace of the desaturated entertainer, audio recordings forgotten. By the time we called it quits, we had missed lunch, and almost missed dinner, which we reluctantly stopped for after finding nothing else. Not a single trace of that damn clown. Then, well, the next day I'm surprised to find I'm out of bed before Carly is. Turns out she really was getting sick. I walked over about ready to tear the sheets off and tell her off for not getting to bed early enough when I saw how miserable she looked. I left the room and got a thermometer from Stephanie at the front desk, and sure enough, a fever. This was going to be a problem. We still had plenty of time in town, but a limited amount of free days. All that planning and preparation, and now it was in jeopardy. I grabbed the phone to call for some soup and water for Carly, and we talked it over. We decided that I would go around town and get a few shots of the streets and such. We don't go out to abandoned places alone for safety, and that wasn't changing just cause one of us had gotten sick. Afterwards, I would come back and we'd shift our schedule around to make it another editing day. I honestly thought that it would be fine. Not too long after I head out with my camera slung over my shoulder. When room service came before I left, they also happened to have some medicine. One less thing to worry about and pretty convenient. I made a quick stop by the coffee shop for a drink and worked my way around town. A picture here, a video there. I even brought Carly's dang tape recorder with me to give her some commentary about the place. I was walking through a section of the city on the edge of town when I stumbled upon a playground. One of those old ones like they used to make them. You know, with all the wooden buildings and walkways. Metal slides that make you feel like you're gliding across the sun in the middle of the day. Old monkey bars that have lost their footing and spin in some places slightly due to age. It looked pretty abandoned, not a family in sight, and from the looks of it, it looked like there hadn't been for a very, very long time. Not only did I think it would be a good place to take some photos due to this, but I also just have a lot of nostalgia for these old play places. They're tearing so many of them out nowadays. I haven't gotten to see one in quite some time. My camera shutter was one of the only noises as I began to shoot. I knelt down to get all sorts of angles, climbed up on it, and even went through a few of the tunnels. It was while I was doing this that I saw the note. It was up on top of one of the wooden poles. It had crinkles all over it and dark brown and green stains on it like it had been rubbed into the ground. Curious. The edges of it twitched ever so slightly. It registered to me just a second before it happened, then it took it. One big gust of wind and it was off. I clambered down the stairs from my perch on the playground. I don't know why, but the letter felt important somehow. It was just up ahead, tumbling and turning. Getting swept up a few feet into the air, then violently thrashed back into the cold ground. I found myself thankful that the grass wasn't wet during my sprint after it. It just kept going and going, its flutters almost perfectly timed with the crunch under my feet. My foot caught on a raised root and I took a harsh tumble to the ground. I looked at my hands pressed into the hard ground, rustling through the leaves, twigs, and dirt. The note had finally stopped just a handful of feet in front of me. That's when I started paying attention to my surroundings again. I wasn't at the playground anymore. I was in a cage. My elbows ached when I made my way to my feet. I observed that I had ended up in a wooded clearing, and all around me was hundreds of trees in a perfect circle encasing me. The spacing between them varied. Many of them had branches that crisscrossed over each other like twisted bars. I was in the forest, and I was completely and utterly alone. But not for long. For in the very edges of my vision I saw a blur between the trees. Then another. And another. I'm spinning trying to find it, chasing the blur like a cat chases a feather, always just slightly out of reach. I have to get my eyes on whatever it is. I was warned not to be out here alone. Strange things happen in these woods. Carly is probably knocked out cold back at the room. Nobody knows where I am. With a wheezing cough, my hands come down onto my knees. I'm exhausted, heaving in breaths. The forest goes completely and unerringly silent. Not a single leaf, bug, or bird. You truly never realize how loud the woods are till it's all gone. Then slowly it starts coming to life again in a brilliant cacophony. And just when I think I'm in the clear, there's a loud honk behind me. I've never jumped so high. The feeling in my bones like being struck by lightning. I spin on my heel, nearly tripping. Right by my face, peeking from between the trees at my eye level, is a tiny BU.